to open up and say, ha, stories from underneath the paper gown. Julia,
Yeah,
I learned about a gross thing.
of course you did.
Of
Please,
course I
please
did.
share. You're in the right place to share.
Okay, so
Okay.
Julia's one of my dearest friends, so she
Mhm.
knows this, listeners, but I have been having rough skin on my buttocks and I have psoriasis. That's not what it is. We're not, I haven't seen a derm yet because long story short, I'm not even gonna
Because
bore you
it's
with why I haven't seen it.
tedious.
No,
Tedious.
here's honestly why. A
Tell me.
while ago, there was a medical hack, remember? There was like some sort of hacking into the medical billing system.
Records.
And so, yes, and so no, I don't think it was a records, it was insurance or something. So I had an appointment
Okay.
with the derm, and then they called and said something about how because of their hack, I was going to have to pay everything up front. And I was like, let me just wait and reschedule until you've figured your shit out.
Okay.
So anyway,
That's not what I
what
expected, but all right.
no. So what Julie and I believe is that I either have KP, which is keratosis pilaris,
Mhm.
or folliculitis. So it's not like acne on my butt. It's not buttony, but it's like rough skin. But I know it's not my psoriasis because it's not behaving the way my psoriasis behaves.
Yeah.
All of this to say, I don't like it. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like the way it feels. I'm going to be taking a trip to a beach. I'm now like getting bathing suits that are low cut so that like my speckly butt doesn't stick out. But in the Googling process of trying to figure out whether it was keratosis pilaris or folliculitis,
Mhm.
God damn it, everyone, I found not only some gross images, but something called a carbuncle. And it's what it is
Yeah.
like if a follicle gets just, and I don't have one, but if a follicle, and if you do, that's fine. I
Yeah.
respect all of your carbuncles, listeners. But
Totally.
if like a follicle or something gets just so like infected or
Clogged.
clogged or whatever,
Yeah.
that it's called a
A
carbuncle. And I'm
carbuncle.
just like marveling at what people name these things and how are we supposed to move through the world feeling any sort of confidence with these horrible names of things. Like, hi, I'm Ellie Dvorkin Dunn. I've got psoriasis, keratosis pilaris, a carbuncle, like what?
It sounds
Astigmatism.
like, it reminds me of barnacle on a boat.
Exactly. It's a
Bar
fucking barnacle on your ass or
carb
anywhere on your
I
butt, a
wonder if they
carbuncle.
could it be related somehow? Carbuncle, barnacle. I mean, they're not really the same word, but it does seem like a little
The
similar.
pictures looked like it was a barnacle.
Yeah, I
A barnacle
wonder.
on your body, a
I wonder.
carbuncle.
Yeah.
Your body's your car. It's a carbuncle. I don't know.
Wow, you're really going for it. Yeah, that was
Did you learn about anything gross or weird or is anything happening to you?
I didn't learn about anything gross or weird, but the weird, gross thing that's happening to right now is that I'm getting nosebleeds. I've never had nosebleeds in my life.
What?
So I do get dry sinuses. Do you know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? So sometimes I have a little bit of like bloody like snot or whatever when I blow my nose. And I have always assumed it's just dryness because, it's from taking like allergy medication and like Flonase. These are all side effects that can occur like when you are taking the things. But like this morning, I was sitting on the toilet and I felt something coming out of
Warmth?
my nose and I was like, "Oh, like my nose is running." Yeah, I like went to just kind of stop it with my finger and then I was going to go grab toilet paper because I'm on the toilet. But while I was doing that, this is a stupid thing, but like my sleeve was falling down like over my hand and it was bothering me. So I was like, "Oh, I'm just going to move that before I go and get the toilet paper." And I got blood all over my arm and was just like, "What just happened?" Like all over my sweatshirt sleeve. So then I just had blood on my face, blood on my sweatshirt, and then I was like, I had the nosebleed, and I was like, that's a new thing. Normally, again, it's just like a little like bloody snot, and this was just like full on
Sure.
nosebleed. And by the way, listeners, if you ever need to get blood out of something that you're wearing, peroxide, just so you know.
That's a great tip.
Yeah, it's a
Hot
great
tip.
tip. Hot tip,
I
hot
don't
tip,
know what
peroxide.
I don't know what you should do for a carbuncle, but peroxide is good for blood on a sleeve.
Yeah. And I put like a little tissue up my nose and just kind of walked around the house and like waited for it to stop.
How many times has this happened?
This is the first time. I mean,
Oh,
I probably have a brain tumor. Obviously,
definitely.
definitely a brain
A
tumor
carbuncle in your brain.
in my nose.
I don't know. That's
No.
strange.
It's not. It's just dry. Like the Google will tell look, the Google could tell you anything. Dr. Google
Right.
could be like, you have a brain tumor
You're
or
dying.
you have
Hmm.
cancer or whatever. But the most obvious thing to me is just dry
Okay.
sinuses because like
I
it's
like that
allergy
answer.
season, right? I mean, like we're
Sure.
all yeah, it makes sense to me. Ellie,
Yes.
who do we have on the pod today?
Today we have Kevin Allison, and I'm very
Oh,
excited
yeah.
because he's highly entertaining and I love him a lot.
Yeah, big fan, big fan. I'll try not to look like a dork. I'll do my best.
You might recognize Kevin Allison from many different things. He is a founding member of the legendary sketch comedy group The State, whose cult classic show aired on MTV from 1993 to 96, and whose recent 30th anniversary comedy tour had people dipping balls everywhere. Kevin is also the creator and host of the hit podcast Risk, where people tell true stories they never thought they'd dare to share. Since Kevin started the podcast as a DIY passion project from his bedroom in 2009, Risk has grown to have millions of downloads per month and legions of ardent fans around the world. It has featured incredible true stories from famous folks like Janine Garofalo, Mark Maron, Aisha Tyler, Trevor Noah, Margaret Cho, and more, as well as ordinary people like me. I was on it talking about how my now husband had to pull a contraceptive sponge out of my vagina, and that's how I knew he was the one. Kevin, welcome to our pod.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. What a lovely introduction.
Well, we're very excited and happy to have you here.
I often feel like we could have a whole separate episode about things getting stuck in our vagina, but that's another story. I'll just leave that to the audience to think about for a moment. Kevin, before we get into your story, please tell us, when it comes to real life medical situations, what kind of patient are you?
Nervous. I am very nervous. You know, the dentist, oh gosh, I'm so filled with anxiety that they'll ask me over and over again if I'm okay, or and it's usually just that I'm so tightly wound expecting pain that it causes more of a. The last time I had to like draw blood for like just a basic like HIV test, um the the woman was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Clearly, I'm making it harder for all of us."
Are you like, are you physically
Is it the
clenching?
face you make?
Yeah. Are you like,
Yes, yes, yes. I'm clenching so much that I'm afraid might get a little herky jerky and mess things up. Oh God. I once had to do a spinal tap,
oh,
and you cannot move a
no,
muscle for
No.
those.
no. I had an
But
epidural. It's the same thing.
yeah, but they should put you in bondage
Right.
in a situation like that, but they didn't. So they were like, "Don't move a muscle. We're just going to shove this thing into your spine," and I had to throw up. So
Oh
I
my
had to
God,
move
heaven.
muscles. It was a nightmare. I
Oh, that's
did throw
awful.
up, and somehow I guess I didn't get paralyzed. But
Oh
yeah,
my God.
I guess I'm just afraid I'm not going to do my part right.
Oh, how funny. You're
You're
like,
like,
you're nervous about being a bad patient.
yeah.
Oh
Okay. All right.
Lord.
The dentist is the worst. Also, I always feel like when there's something coming at my face, I'm always like, I do a lot of like,
Right.
I flinch. I'm a flincher
At the
Right.
dentist.
anywhere.
That's right. I always have to tell people when they're petting my cat, like, I don't know why some people don't understand. You don't like force your hand right down towards its eyes. Wait a minute. You're an animal too. Don't you realize you wouldn't want someone just putting their hand
No,
right down toward your eyes?
that's a great point. All right, Kevin, let's get to your story, which is called What the Hell Was I Thinking?
Oh my gosh. Well, one of the most interesting things about having a storytelling podcast is that you get reactions sometimes from listeners that give you a whole new insight into your stories. Sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, now I'm seeing that whole story in a completely different way just because of what some listener said to me. So one day I was, doing the office work, the administrative work of Risk, just going through our emails, and I had previously the week previously, I had been sharing a story about this time when I was 18 years old, when I was working on an assignment for class at NYU, and at a particular point in it, I had to get rid of a giant jar of jumbo pickles, big whole pickles that were like cucumber sized. And I was so stressed out that I seemed to have a little bit of a brain fritz while I was dealing with this little problem here. And for some reason, in the heat of the moment, I thought, the best way to get rid of these pickles is to flush them down the toilet, because pickles are shaped like poop, right?
Obviously.
So just a moment of like the brain just not quite, the synapses are not quite hooking up in the right way. So it's too complicated to explain what the hell I was thinking in that instance. But that is a whole genre of story that I am so good at, the what the hell was I thinking kind of story.
Sure.
And so I was very proud of how I explained all the complicated stuff that went into the stress that caused me to think flushing toilets down
Well,
a
you
pickle
can't
was a
eat
good
them
idea.
all.
No,
Where else are they gonna
exactly.
go?
Thank you.
You know what? And I will direct listeners to a partner friend storytelling podcast called No You Tell It, in which I believe the pickle story, the full fleshed out pickle story,
You are
appeared.
absolutely
It is not
right.
told by Kevin, it is told by Kevin's story swapping partner, because that's the how the
premise.
show works. That's the premise. Thank
Yeah.
you. I couldn't come up with that word, but that was
Yes,
like, yes. So I will link that in the show notes so that people can hear the full pickle story.
oh, that's so
Because I
fun.
know
Yeah,
what you were
yeah,
thinking, because I know the story and it's good.
Right.
But yeah, pickles don't have
So
the same consistency as poop. But please carry on.
no,
No.
yes, just FYI, everyone, they don't
FYI,
have
if you
the
didn't
same.
know.
So there I was doing the administrative work at Risk, the next week after that story, I had first put that story on Risk, and a a Risk listener wrote in, and let's just say his name was Steven. I forget what his name was, but he said, "Hey, Kevin, longtime listener, first time emailer. I was listening to that story you told about having a brain meltdown and flushing pickles down the toilet. And it occurred to me to ask you, Kevin, do you not know that you have ADHD?" And I laughed. I thought, oh my God, the presumptuousness, the nerve of some Risk listeners to say such a thing. I started laughing, and then my phone pinged. So I got distracted by that, and I looked down, and it was my friend Smith, someone I've known for 30 years. We met in college, and I said, "Oh, Smith, this is so funny. A Risk listener just wrote to me and said, Kevin, don't you realize you have ADHD?" And Smith texted back and said, Kevin, you don't know that yet? So now I was really distracted from my work and decided to go over to Google and
Oh,
start looking
sure.
up, wait a minute, who are the good doctors in New York City to go to find out more about this ADHD stuff?
I can tell you, and none
And
of
I
them
thought,
take insurance, by the way. None of them take insurance. You got to pay hundreds of dollars.
oh my gosh, it's so funny you say that, because something about the way my brain works caused me to forget to ask about the insurance situation. And in the end, this guy was so sweet, and with the diagnosis he gave me, he had mercy on me. He gave me a solid about it all. But anyway, I go to this doctor. His name's Dr. Adler. He has me fill out this long questionnaire about my history, my psychology, my family, all this stuff. And after I finished filling it out, we sat down to talk. And he said, "Oh, I see you have two brothers and two sisters. Did they have any nicknames for you when you were a kid?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, yeah. Space Cadet and Spaz." And he said, "Oh, well, there's your two archetypes." So we talked for a while, and he finally explained to me, he was like, "Look, we diagnose ADHD as mild, moderate, or severe. And some people have mostly the inattentive type. Some people have mostly the hyperactive type. But the folks who have it hardest are the folks who have the combined type, where the inattentiveness and the hyperactivity are both going at full tilt. And unfortunately, I have to tell you that I am diagnosing you as having severe ADHD of the combined type.
Congrats.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
You got a label, another one. I don't know. We all have
Right.
many.
Just to your point, so my husband, his nickname for me when we first met, and I still married him anyway, is Noodle Brain. And then when he met my mother, he said, "Oh, the noodle doesn't fall far from the bowl."
Oh my God. I mean,
No.
Julia, you never told me that.
Truth.
And I've never thought of you as noodle brain until the past 2 years. And my childhood,
And then I got on the meds, and now, yeah,
100% noodle brain. And now I'm thinking about my childhood nickname, which was Ellie Belly. And my belly is also it's present. It's the part of me that what if all childhood nicknames are deeply meaningful and come true, like medically?
Ellie Belly.
Right.
Where do I even begin with that?
I don't know. But
I don't
anyway,
know.
okay, so you get the severe diagnosis and then.
Well, I got to tell you, this whole thing is about trying not to get overwhelmed, right? In those 5 years since that diagnosis, I have gotten so many ADHD books and ADHD courses and ADHD coaches and listened to so many ADHD podcasts. I have never been so overwhelmed by a subject than this one, which is supposed to be about helping you to not be overwhelmed. I mean, I was listening to this course just today where it was like, oh my God, I feel like this doctor is telling me I have to learn how to eat different, sleep different, walk different, like just everything that I found that is truly like just, okay, this totally works is the medication, right? The stimulant medication. For those of us with ADHD brains, it's a little counterintuitive. The stimulant medications like Adderall, they actually don't stimulate us quite so much as other people as they do kind of help us get grounded and centered and focused, right? But the tragedy is that they do stimulate neurotypical people who abuse them. So there's a constant shortage of them
Yes.
for us.
Yes.
But anyway, like I said, the diagnosis has helped me to understand some of my old stories better. And here's one that comes to mind. I was 9 years old when I was in the garage talking to an imaginary friend, which was how I spent a tremendous deal of my time back then, right? Well, and let's be honest, and today.
Did your imaginary friend have a name?
Henry at one point, and for some reason I had the impression that my imaginary friend Henry was going to teach me how to play the guitar. I don't remember why, but oddly enough, that didn't pan out.
Wouldn't it be great if it did? That would
Oh
be
my
a wild
God.
story.
That would be great. But anyway, so at that time in my life, I kept running into problems with not looking at where I was walking while I was talking to an imaginary friend. So at one point, I stepped on a rake. Another day, I walked off the 6-foot ledge of a patio.
Oh.
But on this day in the garage, I stepped on a 2x4 board with a very long and very rusty nail
Oh
sticking straight up.
God. I hate it.
Yes, with like Chuck Taylor sort of sneakers that were very worn down, like
Yeah.
a kid would have. And unfortunately, I knew nothing about fight, flight, or freeze at that moment and made the worst choice of the three and started fleeing, right? Running
Oh my
up
God. Oh my
the
God. It
driveway
hurts.
with a board stuck to my
Oh
foot
my
and with
God.
every step pounding this nail
Oh
deeper
no.
into my foot, right? Until finally I got the better sense to freeze and just started yelling for mom,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, my mom was a nurse. She had first worked in a mental institution and then in an all-girls Catholic high school. I don't know where she, had to deal with more drama.
Yeah. That's a tough one. Could go either way.
The high school. Go ahead.
I think you
Um,
might be right. Yeah.
and she knew exactly where to take me. I don't remember if it was a doctor or a clinic or a hospital, but she took me to get this worked on. And she did not know the particular doctor that was going to see me that day. This guy just exuded pompousness. This was one of those doctors who just thinks he's on another level, and, kind of a conservative seeming guy too. And, my mom is a nurse, so she had some good observations to make and some good questions to ask. He, whatever, gave me a tetanus shot, cleaned out the wound. And at the end of it, she said, well, now, shouldn't Kevin also get a prescription for antibiotics? And he looked down his nose at her and just rolled his eyes and sighed. And he said, I think I would know more about that,
Oh,
ma'am, and just
oh,
walked out.
Oh, I don't like
And
this
that
guy.
was, oh, no, 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 no,
Mm-mm.
no.
Mm-mm.
That was a moment where I saw something I had never seen before. Uh, First, my mom started crying,
oh no.
but it was a very interesting sort of crying because I could see two things. I could see how hurt she was by how he had spoken to her, but also how outraged she was.
Oh yeah.
She was crying, but she was simultaneously like had this sound in her voice and look in her face like, how dare you? And I was filled with guilt and shame, which is kind of a default emotion for, you know, people who grew up with ADHD. And I just started saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry, mom.
Mm.
I'm sorry this happened. And, I know I've got to learn to look where I'm going. And she said something that is useful to me to this very day. She said, it's okay, we all make mistakes and we just have to forgive ourselves and, try to learn from our mistakes. But then she said something that I've never forgotten. She said, like today, for example, you just learned what a sexist pig sounds like.
Love
Yes.
it.
Yes,
And
mom.
that is good mothering.
Yes.
That is excellent mothering.
I've never forgot that was a useful lesson to this very day too. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. What an asshole.
yeah.
Mm.
It
Did
was
you get
so interesting
antibiotics?
to
You didn't get them? That's what I'm stuck
I
on.
know.
no, I don't remember. I don't
No,
remember.
sure. Well, I guess you
Yeah.
didn't get gangrene, so
Yeah.
you would know, I
Right.
suppose, if your
If you
foot, you
needed
have a
them.
foot. You have a foot? You have a foot. I've seen you.
I still have but when I started thinking about this story earlier today, I walked into the bathroom and I was like, oh my God, I'm feeling, you know how that happens when you try to go
Yeah.
back into the sense memory of a story. I was like, oh God, I can feel that rusty nail
Oh,
again,
yeah, yeah, yeah. They say you forget pain, but I feel like you can kind of recall it in a way that gives you chills.
Yeah. Here's a part that I didn't include in the story because it doesn't like get toward any controlling idea of the story. I was also raised like ultra Catholic.
Mm.
And I remember trying to get brownie points with mom on the way to the doctor in the car by saying, now I know how Jesus felt.
Oh, God. Nail in the foot. Now I know. And
This
now
is
I know what
it.
it's like to die for all the sins.
Right.
All
Oh
the
my
sins.
God.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I mean, you did know. You did in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm no longer Catholic, but I still feel like apologizing to Jesus.
Sure, let's all do it. I'm Jewish, but you know, I have every right to
I mean, you're the
apologize.
one who should apologize, Ellie. You killed
Right.
him.
This is going really in a different direction than I
Different directions.
anticipated.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
When I think about that kind of like angry, like when was the last time you had like a righteous angry cry? Do you know what I'm saying?
oh
Mm,
That
yeah,
freaking like where you're like, fuck you, and you're so angry that you're crying, and then you're like angry at yourself because you're
yeah.
crying because somebody made you cry, and it's
Yeah.
like, that's the worst.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's so powerful. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to remember when I might have. Well, breakup. That, the last,
Mm,
really hard breakup that can happen because the mix of emotions you can go through in a
yeah.
breakup can be a lot.
Mine was after a medical situation. Mine was, I mean, I'm not going
Mm,
to tell the whole story, but you're talking about a blood draw. I'm not a nervous patient
That's
with blood
right.
draws. I'm like perfectly relaxed and fine, but I'll truncate. But I had one recently where my blood wouldn't come out for the phlebotomist.
mm,
I don't know why.
mm.
So she started blaming me for fasting for too long. And it
Oh
was a
yeah.
whole thing like where she ended up blaming me and shaming me. And it was awful, and
No.
I was, like, apologizing to her and trying to come to an understanding, and in short, when I finally left the office, I started sobbing, and I'm a grown-ass woman, and I started sobbing, but it's that exact cry. I felt powerless, and I also felt enraged, like, how dare she make me feel
Yeah.
bad for my body not working the way she wanted it to work, and, like, fuck you,
Right.
like, and also no, I am making the story longer, but Julia knows this. At no point when my blood wouldn't come out of either arm or my hand was she like,
Wow.
gosh, we should be concerned. Should we send you back to the doctor? Because maybe something's really wrong. This is worrisome. Instead, she was just like pissed off at me because she needed to
This is
get to
your
the next
fault.
person. And just like you
That's
said earlier,
crazy.
doctors have said, like, are you okay? My blood wasn't coming out, and she was like, are you okay? As if I were willfully holding my blood from flowing for
Suck
her.
all my blood right back into my body, and you get none of it.
I was like clenching my
You're
ass.
clenching your butthole so hard
I
that
was
it sucks
clenching
all of your blood in.
my veins. Yeah. Anyway, that
Yeah.
was my last ragey cry.
Yeah.
Was like, ah, so mad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So was the rusty nail? Is that the nail in the what were you thinking? Or the what the hell
Yeah,
were you
yeah, yeah,
thinking?
yeah.
That is. That's I've never stepped on a rusty nail, but I hope I never do. I mean, is that like a stupid ass
Yeah.
fucking given thing to say?
Mm.
Um,
I've
I
had a
don't know.
fishing hook caught in my foot.
Oh
That was pretty
shit.
gross. I
Oh
stepped on a fishing, like a
gosh.
fishing hook.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, no. Was
Yeah.
it okay?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't
My
have to go
dad
to
was
the
like, oh,
hospital?
pull it out. No, he just pulled it out.
Okay, okay. Oh gosh, just a couple of years ago, I stepped on a tiny shard of glass. Like I don't know, it was as big as like a little bit of a fingernail clipping or something like that, right? And unfortunately, I stepped on it. I guess I had broken a glass and not swept up well enough.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then, several days later, just walking through the apartment barefoot, I must have stepped on it. And at the time it felt like a splinter sort of thing, but it must have just gotten sucked up into me because I looked and I couldn't see anything that could be pulled out or anything like that. And I mean, this haunted me for like a couple of months until I was like almost unable to walk. And I go to the foot doctor, they do an x-ray, and I'm like, holy shit, there really is a little triangle of a shard of something in the middle of my foot. Well, this woman, she was incredible. Like she knew her stuff because I had already been to a couple of foot doctors who were like,
That's
I don't
crazy.
think it's anything. But she knew her stuff. And unfortunately, she didn't want to give me any anesthetic.
Oh no.
And she
Ah,
was like, look, it would be easiest if we just, went for it and got this done as quickly as it can be. And she really dug into my goddamn butt with some sort of like scalpel like
Oh my
thing and like
God.
and yanked it out.
No.
Yes, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. So it's funny. I wonder if that was I think it was the same foot as the rusty nail. Now that I'm thinking of it, Gosh,
What
this
is
feels
that
like there's something. I don't know. There's some
puts
sort
a
of
drama
Jungian
magnet.
thing I have to learn from my foot.
From your foot. So as we discussed in the pre-interview, I am a huge fan, and this has been really incredible and kind of difficult to sit through and not have a freak out. But I think I've been very calm and I'm very proud of myself. Ellie, don't you think I've been good?
Sure.
But as we come to a closer, please tell our listeners what you're working on, what you'd like to promote, where they can find you in all the places. Tell them now.
Well, the state, my sketch comedy group, is doing a few more shows this year. We're doing one in Nashville, one in Austin, and maybe some more. So everyone can find out more about us at the-state.com. We're really hoping to do another like project together for film or television. So we're trying to get that in the works.
Don't
be
tease
dreamy.
me. Don't tease me.
And I am in a movie that one of the members of the state, Michael Patrick Jan, shot in January. I think that'll be coming out this fall. It's called Alma and the Wolf. It's a horror movie.
Oh, huzzah.
Yes. And finally, anyone can find my show Risk, where people tell true stories they never thought they'd dare to share in public, that Ellie has been on.
Right.
You can find it wherever you get your audio podcasts or at risk-show.com.
Super. And we will, of course, listeners, we will leave links. If you didn't write all that down, don't worry about it. We're going to leave links to all the things in the show notes. Definitely check out all of the things in all the places.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Kevin. This has
Thank you
been
guys.
lovely.
It's so much fun.